Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Okay, Hebrews, it's common sense. I just made a video dealing with how you have to use common sense with dealing with Israelite history. And this is what, man, I want to speak on. We know that if we Israelites broke the covenant for Egyptian religion, to you so-called African Americans and blacks and Negroes that believe, in your enemy's history and the history that they done gave you since the slavery days. Well, I'm here to tell you, you the Israelites in the Tanakh, you the Israelites in the Bible. And how about that you have to wake up to your Israelite heritage in order to survive in these treacherous times that's going on? How about that you have to wake up to the things that we did to break covenant? And it's important as being an awakening Israelite is to identify what caused us to break covenant. See, a lot of Israelites really don't know how we broke covenant. They don't know what went on, and then they think that the Israelite heritage just continued endlessly after the covenant was broken in the Tanakh history. You got Hebrews that are naive and think in a baby fashion when it comes to Israelite history, and they like some little babies and stuff, and they look at history and biblical history through the eyes of like a little child in a sense, and they like a fairy tale, and they don't really understand what's going on. And then what I want to hit on is that how we Israelites broke the covenant for Egyptian religion and for Egyptian culture. Now, how hard is that to understand? That's like I said, that a lot of Israelites think that the Israelite history just continued endlessly after the Tanakh. History, and they think that the Israelites developed demigod worship, being around about exile time, not even during the exile time, 500 years after the book of Malachi closed, for some reason, the Israelites don't know, because, like I say, if you ain't, being exposed to the Israelite Brotherhood history, then, 9 out of 10, you're going to believe in the Jewish myths. And the Jewish myths were given to the transatlantic slave trade descendants, the people that are called Negroes, African Americans, and blacks. And then how did they believe in the New Testament that was given to their forefathers on the plantation in the slavery days by their enemies, and how we'll modify, we'll modify the history and the religions to suit us as what happened to Christianity in the New Testament, how the Israelites, turned them people into some black people, not knowing New Testament real history and stuff. But this is what I want to hit on, Israelites, is how that the covenant was broken for Egyptian religion and culture, and then that caused the transatlantic slave trade. That's why our enemy, keeps, the Egyptian culture on us. That's why our enemies keep the Egyptian culture on us, whether it's hidden or obvious, or whether it's subliminal or just upfront mental. They keep the Egyptian culture on us because that's what caused us to break covenant. And the Creator was furious. He was already furious with us for messing with messing with the Canaanite culture, after we left Egypt, because, you have to remember that the Creator told us through Moses that after leaving Egypt that we shouldn't even have to go back that way. No more, deal with the Egyptians no more, especially after the Egyptians enslaved us, and they were some pigmented peoples too. And then how they enslaved us, and then how we Israelites got free by the grace of Almighty Yah, and then how we were supposed to go into the promised land and then just hold the covenant down. The laws that the Creator gave us. Real simple, real simple. And how that we didn't do that. And then how we were supposed to destroy the unjust Canaanite system and culture that went from Egypt, from the Nile, all the way to the Euphrates, and how we were supposed to destroy it, and then how we didn't, and then how we eventually got enslaved by both of those systems dominate us now. But how that we Israelites wasn't supposed to look back and even associate with Egypt no more. And then, once that was done, and then all the wicked cultures that was connected to Egypt was severed by us Israelites being right there in the promised land. Right there in the promised land. We in the promised land. The Egyptians can't come by. And as I explained in plenty of videos, how the Egyptians, the Pharaoh, was real smart and real crafty. And then that's why they keep the Egyptian system on us, because it was crafty and real slick. And how that the Pharaoh during Prophet Joseph time, that how he peeped that we was a people connected to the Creator, and how we come from the land of Canaan, and how that we just happen to be there because of the famine and so forth. And then how that, Pharaoh then gave Joseph Asenath, and he then had 2 kids by the Egyptian woman, the priest of On daughter. And then from that connection there, that would doom us Israelites, us associating with the Egyptians. So if you see in the past that us Israelites associated with Egyptian culture, and then that's what destroyed us, then we should be trying to figure out what is all connected to some Egyptian culture. What is all connected to Egyptian culture? Now we know that Christianity, the Jesus story, the Jesus story is that Isis Horus story, and we know that that's where that come from. We know that that's where, the Christian story was developed off the Egyptian religion. And then that would be one of the reasons why the slave owners would be real crafty and put that religion on the slaves, because it's an Egyptian religion. Christianity is an Egyptian religion. And the story of how Jesus functioned, it parallels with the Egyptian stories and so forth. So the slave owner, the people who knew that they was capturing Israelites up under the false name Gramentian that was given to us by the Greeks, that after we was finally captured and then brought from Africa to the Americas, and then how that they would hurry up and put an Egyptian system on the Hebrews. And that's what Christianity is. The whole Christian story is based upon Egyptian principles, especially the baptism, John the Baptist doing baptism, all that's Egyptian rebirth principles and so forth, and how that was put on the slaves. And then, it's kind of smart, for the slave owners to want to put an Egyptian system on the people, knowing that the people are susceptible to Egyptian type religions or anything that is close to it. You know what I'm saying? That's like knockoffs. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the Hebrews can't afford the original brand, and then how we'll substitute it with the knockoffs. And then that's what Christianity is. It's a knockoff from the Egyptian religion. And then the Israelites was given it during the slavery days for a purpose. You know, we dealing with some crafty people who know what we broke the covenant for. You know, we dealing with some crafty people that know what we broke the covenant for. So it's gonna be real smart for them to some kind of way refashion the Egyptian religion and then put it on us once we're in captivity, as was prophesied by prophet Moses. There's no escaping the curses. You know, we give a lot of credit to our enemies for capturing us, and just think that they had the whole power to do it. No, it was prophesied long time ago, and how our enemies was just doing what we was vulnerable for. You know, it's certain things if you vulnerable for, you know, man, you don't have no defense against it because you vulnerable for it. And then that's what happened to us. And then, you know, we was enslaved, and then they hurry up and put an Egyptian system on us, since the Egyptian system was handed to them anyway. You know, I explained in the videos how we abandoned our heritage to the Babylonian scribes, and then how the Babylonian scribes are responsible for Western civilization. You know, Western civilization. So, you know, them being responsible for Western civilization, they gonna be responsible for the Western civilization's religion. You know, as I also explained how Christianity, the first Christians were in the Discopolis, and then that was up under Ashkenazi control. You know, showed that how that the religions, you know, were created for proxy wars between the two groups, the Sephardims and the Ashkenazi, and how they created the religions to fight over the Israelites' heritage that we abandoned. You know, that's like in the Islamic world and in Muslim countries, these people flourish. These people flourish. The Sephardim and you know what I'm saying, the Sephardi and Sephardim flourish in Islamic countries, and they are not molested or bothered, none at all. But how in the Christian countries that Ashkenazi, you know, control, you know, Ashkenazi flourish good in Christian controlled lands, and how Ashkenazi just flourish and do real good and prosper. And that's how Ashkenazi was able to get on top of the world. It is, you know, and control the Western hemisphere also, is that they use their created religions. You know what I'm saying? To enslave the folks, as well as conquer and take over the Israelite heritage. And I explained in countless videos how Ashkenazi took over the Sephardic way. You know, I got to get this out the way, and then I'm gonna go into how we Israelites shouldn't fool around with Egyptian culture, and how we should examine everything that come our way culturally or any kind of way, and see if it got some Egyptian or Canaanite connection to it. You know, the Israelites that's woke ain't finna accept nothing from nobody. We ain't accepting no religion. We reject the music, and we basically anti everything. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I'm gonna explain how that should lead to us getting some strength, and then how you know, we're going to have to negotiate with our heritage, with the people that we abandon our heritage to. But first, we got to be free of the Egyptian religion. But look, this is what I want to explain how Ashkenazi took over the Sephardic way. So, you know, but the things that happened and how the culture in the Canaanite culture was set up before Ashkenazi took it over, and it's like Ashkenazi just took it over from the Sephardi groups, but they both share the rule of the Western culture that was set up by the Sephardi's who are from Sepharvaim. All right, look, the Sephardic idea has always been understood in terms of political moderation and community unity. Rarely did Sephardim lose their internal cohesion, that is, until the process of cultural erosion set in. Following the Ashkenazi lead, Sephardim abandoned their traditional culture and adapted to the fractious Ashkenazi model under the rubric of a single Jewish nation. The Sephardi particularity with its cultural genius and sophisticated social morals has become a lost value. You know, that's a lost value. You know, the Ashkenazi culture with its deeply unsettled relationship to the larger world has now become the Jewish standard. And then look, man, I want to get off the Egyptian thing for a second and point this out, that it's a possibility that because the Eastern nations are rising up, and especially we know that China reject Christianity and won't let it in, won't let it into its nations, and a lot of people's mad and hope one day that they can get Christianity into China and prosper and become rich overnight. You know, but the Chinese government ain't going. They ain't going for that because they know that once you get on Christianity and get on the New Testament and then or even the Tanakh and then not knowing real world history, that you will start worshiping the Jews. You know, that's one of the tactics. That's one of the good tactics that they created, is when they published all these Bibles and then put them in all these lands. And that's one of the first things, you know, after the military get in, is to let the missionaries come in. You know, they got to brainwash the people, and you know, we know that happened thoroughly to Africa, and then how the missionaries come in, and then after the soldiers, and then how they get you on the Bible, and then particularly, you know, once you start believing in that story, then man, you become captive and docile against the Jews and stuff, and then you be thinking that the Jews have a divine right to the resources in your land and stuff. Man, they been running this con game for a long time, and then how that the people from China ain't letting no Christianity set up in their nation or Islam. You know, they don't even want it in this nation. You know, you know what I'm saying? In their nation, and then how did those Abrahamic, so-called Abrahamic religions I explained in the video, how Prophet Abraham ain't endorsed none of them religions, not Judaism, not Christianity or Islam, and how Prophet Abraham ain't endorsed none of the religions, and how did them religions gonna come off the Babylonian scribes' interpretation of the Israelites' history and heritage that we abandoned to them since the Babylonian wars, most certainly. But how did they got in the land in the northern kingdom while the Israelites were on Egyptian religion, and then when we was finally ran off, and then how we left them Babylonian scribes our heritage, and then how did they, you know, forge the Israelite history that the world done accepted, and then how it was smart for China not to accept Christianity and be up under, you know, their control mentally. You know, once you get a whole population, you know, believing that the Jews are the chosen people, then man, you become defenseless and you can't do nothing, and then you have the whole world, men against you. But this is what I wanted to say, that how did these Eastern nations, did they got pigmentation that resisted Christianity and Ashkenazi, putting Christianity down in their lands. But how did the Sephardims, Sephardims had trade routes throughout these lands long time ago, and then as these peoples, the Asians who didn't participate in the transatlantic slave trade, are rising up, and that it's a possibility that the Sephardi might want some revenge on Ashkenazi for taking over. But plus, we coming into our heritage anyway, and ain't nothing can stop that. And how the Israelite Brotherhood done opened the doors already. The Israelite Brotherhood done opened the doors on our history with correct history. But how that if the people's men accept who we are, and then which is finna happen, that how the Sephardi's is finna get revenge on the Ashkenazi, because the Sephardi's, they lived in the promised land, they're Amorites, as I explained in the videos, and then how they lived in the promised land among us, and then how that, they know we the Israelites, and then how once they point that out, then, there might be some little safety for them, and then how that there'll be a revenge on Ashkenazi. But right now they in it hand in hand together, and then I explained in the video where the Sephardi in the Ashkenazi rabbis come from, and how we abandon our heritage to the Sephardi's, the Sephardims, who are Babylonian scribes, and then how that, they took over our heritage and wrote what it was and what it was supposed to be. And then when we was driven out the land by the Scythians, who was Ashkenazi, and then how did they share our heritage. And that's how they share our heritage. And because they knew what we broke covenant for, Egyptian religion, then it's ideological that they gonna set the whole Western culture up on Egyptian principles and religion and so forth, and let it grow and prosper as what happened. And then any religions or so forth that come off the Egyptian religion, like Christianity did, the Isis Horus story, then they gonna, put that on the peoples, and then that's what happened. But that's like I said, that how the Sephardi might have a chance to get revenge on the Ashkenazi for taking over the Israelite heritage and forcing them to comply with their rules and their demands, what I'm saying, with they synagogue worship and so forth. But I can show how that was also prophesied in the Tanakh that it would happen. And then I'm gonna go into how we was tricked by the Egyptians, and then how we shouldn't be doing no Egyptian culture, and how Israelites should examine everything surrounding them to see if it's tied into some Egyptian culture, and if you are worshiping it. Because if you worshiping it, then you need to disconnect. And it's easy to disconnect when you understand truth, and then what happened. But this is what happened to the Sephardi's, who represent the Babylonian way. They represent the Babylonian way. The Sephardi Jews do. That's they are Babylon, the whole, because that's where they from. That's where we get the whole tax system and contracts, and how the whole administrative structure of this nation in the Western Hemisphere function. It come off a Babylonian system. But here is the prophet Jeremiah saying that how Babylon will be taken over by Ashkenazi. And you see Ashkenazi name in the Tanakh. You see what I'm saying? And then how the Assyrians also called Ashkenazi by their name, and how Ashkenazi would destroy the Assyrian Empire. I just did a video about how Assyria's the Neo-Assyrian Empire was because we Israelites associated with the Assyrians and so forth. But if you look, this is Ashkenazi getting the okay to take over the Babylonian way. All right. And they shall not take of thee of a stone for a corner, nor a stone for a foundation, but thou shalt be desolate forever, saith the Elohim. Set up a standard in the land, and blow the trumpet among the nations, and prepare against her. Call together against her the kingdoms of Arad, Mini, and Ashkenaz, and appoint captains, and cause the horses to come up as a rough pillar. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, and the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. And then they would take Babylon over too. And then that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, how Ashkenazi would end up, controlling Babylon. But I show in history how the Japhetic tribes always had an association with Babylon anyway, by this descendant of Japhet called Japhet Nimfat. He was the founder of Armenia, and how he got chased out of Babylon when the pygmalic peoples controlled it. All right, Hebrews, let's go into how we as Israelites, hey man, I want to say this again, how it's a possibility that the Seb Hardys who did trade routes, you know what I'm saying? Man, who had trade routes all in the Eastern nation. All in the Eastern nations. You see, Ashkenazi never could get into the Eastern nations, man, and just conquer. And just conquer, and how, the Ashkenazi controlled the British Empire and so forth, and how they just couldn't get into the East and just take it over all the way like they did the West. But how that the Seb Hardys, who were the Randanites, merchants, and how that they had trade routes all in Asia and China, and been doing trade with them folks that when them people come to power as happening, then the Sephardims and peoples that's in them lands might get a little power, and then they can't help but point that we the Israelites out now because we got correct history. And that's another thing that I want to hit on, Israelites, that if you're not using the history that the Israelite Brotherhood showing, that you gonna 9 out of 10 be using Jewish myths, or your history ain't gonna be complete and correct, and how you gonna be just, man, mixing everything all up and stuff, as a whole lot of Israelites do. Them Israelites want to be knowing history, and then they want to know their history, and they put a lot of time into studying their history, but sometimes it take Almighty Yah to be involved in this. As with this case with me, I know most definitely that Almighty Yah involved with me in this history because of what I've been through, and some of the things that could have happened on the way up to me learning the history that I know. It's like almost in a sense like Prophet Jonah, how I was forced to learn Israelite history. I ain't have no choice. And then how no matter which way that I turned and ran, that everything was disastrous until I came back to this, and that's for real. And those who know me understand, those who know me personally understand what I done been through, and how Almighty Yah done plucked me out the fire a few times. All right, but we see how the Sephardi's got all these trade routes, and how they was affiliated with the Eastern nations, and how Ashkenazi couldn't get Christianity in there to dominate the Eastern nations. And now the Eastern nations are rising up militarily and China, and then got a gold back system, something that the Sephardi's love a gold back system. You know, they love gold, and how that's finna unseat the West, and then how that man that the Ashkenazi got a chance to save themselves before all this come to pass, and they be left out because the Sephardi's gonna be with them pigmented folks in the east, and then trying to, get on with them, whereas Ashkenazi can't. And then how that Ashkenazi finna be left out the picture, and then especially with us Israelites coming into heritage, and then I can point how the Ashkenazi was the Chaldeans and the Scythians that chased us Israelites into Africa during the Babylonian Wars, and how that's undisputable, and is zero chance of getting out of that, and away from that is zero chance of getting away from that, and how that is overproven that Ashkenazi were the Chaldeans that chased us into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. Okay, if Ashkenazi don't embrace us, then Ashkenazi set to be cast off, because the people gonna say, hey, man, we the Israelites and the Sephardi's, them gonna try it, as been trying to happen, as they been promoting the African Jews and so forth, and the whole bunch of Jews that got pigmentation, and how the Sephardi's is trying to open up the doors for them. You know what I'm saying? And Ashkenazi don't know that this is casting them out. That the more that the Sephardi open the door to the pigmented peoples, and embracing them, that's casting Ashkenazi out. And that how Ashkenazi ain't gonna be able to reverse this. But how I'm trying to tell them that if they acknowledge that we the Israelites, man, before the Sephardi's do, that the Ashkenazi gonna be the winners. The Ashkenazi gonna be the one, and can stick around, and then how that if they help us get into the promised land, if Ashkenazi help us get into the promised land, as the Israelite Brotherhood is negotiating with some Ashkenazi members that got roots to the promised land, that they people bought the promised land from the British government, and you know who they are. Well, man, I'm talking to some of them, and that if we can get in the mountains, in the promised land, and then be left alone and give us a little sovereignty, men, in our area, you know what I'm saying, in the mountains, a habitable part of the mountains, and that how the Israelite issue can be settled, and that the Israelite Brotherhood can settle the Israelite issue. You know, the Israelite issue can be settled, and I'm explaining to them people how that they gonna have to settle the Israelite issue, because they got a lot of plans, futuristic plans, men, about how that they want the earth to be governed by one world system and so forth, and the New World Order, and the Illuminati programmings that they have set up. And I'm telling them that nothing can move forward, and everything is going to come to failure until this Israelite issue is settled. It has to be settled, and that the people from the transatlantic slave trade are the Hebrew Israelites. I wanted to come a time, man, to where that the Israelite Brotherhood, we got to filter out the demigod worshippers, and we got the people filter out a whole lot of people, but how the Israelite Brotherhood have knowledge in those areas, and how that they need to set the Israelite Brotherhood up in a position, man, to where we can, filter out some of the people that's possibly gonna come to the promised land, and then how that we can, get this settled and get the Israelite issue settled. We got to get the Israelite issue settled. It's gonna have to be settled, and that the people from the transatlantic slave trade are the Israelites without question. And then if Ashkenazi play around too long, and they know how slick the Sephardi's is, and then they know that they took the Israelite heritage from the Sephardi's, and took rule from them, and that the Sephardics got a chance to get some revenge on Ashkenazi. I just explained how the Eastern nations are rising up and how Ashkenazi was never able to get in there and control them. Never, and not even with the Fayette currency. That didn't happen. All right, Hebrews, let's get into this here. How we broke the covenant for Egyptian culture, that caused the transatlantic slave trade. That's why our enemies, you know what I'm saying, keep, an Egyptian culture on us. And, and especially the people that don't have an understanding that they're Israelites. The people from the transatlantic slave trade that don't understand that they Israelites, man, they gonna hurry up and indoctrinate you with some Egyptian culture. You know what I'm saying? They gonna hurry up and put some Egyptian culture on you, cause that's what keep you ensnared. And then it's like Almighty God said that if we fool around with them religions, that how we'll get snared, and how snare means something that'll hold you. It ain't just killed you, but you can die from being snared, but because you can't move around and get the nutrients and so forth. But how when you snared, you at the sole mercy of the people that got you snared, that they got you tied down. And that's how we are as Israelites. We in a snare. Just like Almighty Yah said that them people will snare you. And that's what's happening to us as Israelites, descended from the transatlantic slave trade, how we in the system that got us in a snare. And how that, our oppressors are destroying us systematically. And I explain in videos how the Amorite culture, the Babylonian Amorite culture that we are under, can systematically destroy an ethnic group, and how that they can legislate it with law, and then how the laws can destroy us because the laws are double standard and so forth. And man, we got it real bad caught up in this Canaanite Egyptian system. That's why it's important as an awakening Israelite is to identify what we did to break covenant. And I'm telling you, it's the Egyptian religion, culture, and beliefs, and that nothing else compared to that. Everything else is secondary. It's secondary. And then once you realize that it was the Egyptian culture that we broke covenant for, then you should be trying to identify everything that has an Egyptian connection or culture. And they plainly said it out. Some of you Israelites gonna have Egyptian statues in your house, and pictures of Pharaoh and all kind of stuff in your house, thinking that it's a game and stuff, and not knowing that this is real. And some of you gonna have Egyptian books on the ways to follow the Egyptian mat and all that old evil wicked stuff. Well, that's what we broke covenant for. And then, like I said in the beginning, that how it was smart for old wicked Pharaoh to give prophet Joseph Asenath, the priest of On daughter, especially after he peeped that Joseph was connected to the Most High and that we was in Canaan, and that how the Egyptians knew that they had to come across the land of Canaan in order to survive and do trade, and that how that if we Israelites did the covenant, that how we were slick killing the Egyptian system. Almighty Yah super smart. The creator of the heavens. The creator of the heavens and the earth is super smart, because with us doing the covenant right there, and the Egyptians couldn't come across, that's gonna kill the Egyptian system, as well as us physically destroying the Canaanite Amorite culture. Yeah, we would have been the priestly nation that all nations on the face of the earth would have came and followed and worshipped, and would have tried to be like, and would worship Almighty Yah, and how we would have single-handedly got rid of all the false god worships. You know, that's where all these religions come from, the fallen angelic beings, religions that was created for these peoples, and how we would have got rid of all of them all over the earth. All over the earth, if we would have resisted the Egyptian culture, and then knew that when Pharaoh gave Joseph Asenath, who had Manasseh and Ephraim, and then how the tribe of Ephraim kept an Egyptian culture on the northern kingdom, and how that we was eventually driven off the land, the northern and the southern kingdom, into Africa for worshiping the Egyptian religion. But how Pharaoh was real slick, real slick, real slick when he gave Joseph Asenath. And then if you go to Genesis, that'll be Genesis. That's gonna be Genesis 40. Genesis 41. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zephaniah Paneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. And Joseph went all over Egypt. Now this Potiphar, priest of On, as I show in some of the videos, I'm going to develop and put the history together of how that the priest of On and the Mishwish tribes and the people from Libya, they Hamites, you know what I'm saying? And as I've shown, that Put and Mesrim as brothers, and how that the Mishwish tribes from Lower Egypt, that control Lower Egypt, that'd be Put and Libya control Lower Egypt, and then how that was the ones that Joseph was kindred through his sons Manasseh and Ephraim, and how that they did the Egyptian will on the other side. You know, when the Egyptians couldn't come across, the tribe of Ephraim went down into Egypt and did trade with the Egyptians, and kept us messed up. And then even the Ephraim descendants, Jeroboam, would put the Egyptian religion on the 10 tribes, and that would destroy us. You know what I'm saying? And it all started from this right here. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zephaniah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the priest of On daughter. You know, so the priest gonna be real slick. The priest gonna be real slick, and you know he gonna install the Egyptian religion on his grandkids, especially if Joseph out doing, you know, stuff, taking care of business. And then, you know, we know that the Egyptians from Upper Egypt come on the power that didn't know Joseph and enslaved us, and then had us making brick sails and so forth. That's why I explain in other videos also how we Israelites couldn't have been in the Americas, because we knew how to make bricks, glass, and, you know, had technology and so forth, and how it would have been impossible to been exposed for that technology in Africa and Egypt, and learn, you know, all the buildings, houses, and so forth, and how it would have been impossible for us, you know, meant to be in the Americas. Like I explained, how it would have been impossible for us to be in Africa after the transatlantic slave trade, up to the time that we were so-called freed and the Hebrews was able to move around. But how they couldn't know Israelites been left in Africa just because we are a unique people, and how we would have tore the whole Africa up. Impossible if we ain't enslaved and under yoke and bondage and tied down, and that if it's over 100,000 of us, let alone some millions, and that if we somewhere, man, we gonna tear the whole place up. We're going to tear the whole place up, and how Africa wouldn't be the same, and wouldn't be, man, it's kind of bad for them to think that some Israelites was in Africa and they unable to come up and take over a nation and then reach out and save us over here in the Americas, because that's how we get out. You know what I'm saying? And that how that we over here in captivity, surrounded by waters, and how we come over here with a yoke on, with guns pointed at us, and how the guns still pointed at us and we ain't been able to do nothing, and that how we ain't gonna be in Africa free roaming around and not gonna be able to take over. You know what I'm saying? We'll take over the whole Africa, man, if some millions of us there. And that how it's impossible for us to have tanks and planes and not get it from everybody. That's just how we is, and ain't nothing gonna change that. And that how we are not these docile, scary Israelites that some of the Israelites would fashion us to be, humble and passive. No, that ain't so. Like I say, go down to your corner store and them hot spots that you know that you can lose your life in. That's how it is, and that how that this system got us in check, and that how if we wasn't up under this yoke, that ain't no way in the world that we could be in Africa and not create something real serious, and that how everybody will know, and that how we don't even feel no connection to the Africans, but through TV and the make-believe connections that our enemies have established for us, you know, and that how I proved that we was captives in Africa, and how that the African tribes participate in it, and that how our first derogatory name was Gramentian, you know, and that if you believe in any history that our enemies done created, man, about our us in Africa and our connection to Africa, and how you just a green, gullible person, and how you shouldn't believe nothing they say, no matter how fantastic they make the story sound. You know, they'll get on TV with flutes and all kind of sorry sounding music, and then you think that there's some truth behind them explaining our connection to Africa. All false, because they trying to keep our Israelite heritage hidden. And I explain to people who are responsible, you know what I'm saying, for doing such, you know, the people that we abandoned our heritage to, how the Sephardi and Ashkenazi been working hand in hand on keeping the Israelite heritage hid, and how that's over with now. It's over with now. It's over with now. But we see how Joseph was given Asenath, and then Ephraim, Manasseh and Ephraim, and then I can show that the tribe of Ephraim kept an Egyptian connection. Now, this ain't what the Creator wanted. The Creator told us this right here. If you go to Exodus, man, that'll be Exodus 14. This us leaving Egypt. This us leaving Egypt, and how Almighty Yah done killed all the firstborn of the Egyptians. Ain't no telling how many people that was, and how he done devastated the Egyptians with all kind of rafts and diseases and everything that he put on the Egyptians. And then how the Egyptians finally let us go. And then how after leaving, you know, the Egyptians even tried to pursue us. Remember, this is that Nubian, Ethiopian, Hamitic stock of the Egyptians from Upper Egypt, you know, because the people from Lower Egypt that who Joseph were mixed with, they exodus with us. They exodus with us, which would have been a disaster in a plan that Pharaoh had fashioned from the beginning when he gave Joseph Asenath, and then we stay in Egypt, man, a whole nother 100-some years, knowing that we're gonna have a whole bunch of kids, and how that they gonna leave with us. As I could show, one of the Israelites who didn't have sons gave his daughter to an Egyptian, and then she had sons by him, and they was counted as Egyptians. See, Pharaoh doing all this to mess us up from the covenant when he gave Joseph Asenath. Look, and a mixed multitude went up also with them, flocks, herds, and very much cattle. You know, the mixed multitude is going to be them Egyptians leaving with us, the ones from Lower Egypt. But then, you know, when they tried to overtake us, look, and Elohim hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children Israel, and the children of Israel went out with the high hand. But the Egyptians pursued after them, and all the horses and chariots, and Pharaoh and his horsemen and army, and overtook them encamping by the sea, besides Pihirioth, before Baal-zephon. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, and the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were so afraid. And the children of Israel cried unto the Elohim, and they said unto Moses, because we were not graves in Egypt, but thou hast taken us away to die in the wilderness. Wherefore hast thou dealt with us to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not that the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? That's how the Israelites is now. That's part of this American captivity that we in now. They want to be left alone to serve this evil empire that's coming down, that's finna be destroyed, Almighty Yah. But regardless, they would rather be left alone and don't want to be told about no Israelite history, so they can be left alone to be worshiping this system. You know, one Israelite, just posted to me how his families was all in the Masons and the Eastern Stars, and then how when he showed them some Israelite history, you know what I'm saying, and told them, and then how they went to the camps, and then when he showed them the Israelite Brotherhood history of how the camps are using Jewish myths, and then how they got all mad at him and don't want to fool with him. It be like that sometimes. It's rough, but us believers in Almighty Yah, we're gonna have to push on. But how that the Israelites are just like the Israelites in the past, identical, and that how we would rather worship and be a part of our enemy, as long as we ain't just, under the whip all the way and stuff. And that's how it is with Hebrews now. But this is what Almighty Yah said after that. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Elohim, which he shall show you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. So we Israelites weren't supposed to be seeing the Egyptians no more forever after exiting the Egypt, going into the promised land. And then Almighty Yah even stipulated this. He even stipulated this, and he wanted us to have no connection with the Egyptians, which would have been slick killing the Egyptians, as I could show that the Egyptians was real threatened during the last part. They never tried to come across the promised land or have any association with the Israelites from the tribe of Judah that followed Almighty Yah. As you can see from Samuel to King Saul to King David, followed Almighty Yah. All three of them, how the Egyptians didn't even try to come around. They didn't even try to come around. And then how when Solomon come on, who would, fall weak, and then Solomon married the Egyptian Pharaoh's daughter. I showed that the Mishwish tribes that come back on, the ones from Lower Egypt, had finally got back control of Egypt, and then how they established a relationship with Solomon, and then Solomon would marry the Pharaoh's daughter, and then how the Pharaoh being slick, getting us up off the covenant, and then how that we will be destroyed all the way to now, based upon what Solomon did, and then how we had a chance to not be enslaved is when King Josiah was prophesied to be born, and then he was born 300 years later after Solomon's death, and Jeroboam, who was from the tribe of Ephraim, put the Egyptian religion on the northern kingdom, and how prophecy for Josiah to clean it up come to pass around about 621 BC, and how the Egyptians immediately come out and killed him, and then put us back on the Egyptian religion, and then how we would all go into Africa. So you Israelites, or you so-called African Americans and blacks that's just waking up to your Israelite heritage. It was the Egyptian culture that enslaved us. So now that you know that the Egyptian culture enslaved us, as I'm going to show, cause our enslavement, then we should reject everything Egyptian. Everything Egyptian. So this is what Prophet Moses said. This Leviticus, you know what I'm saying? Moses getting the law. This the law. Now we done been tricked by the Egyptians. Man, before Moses go get the law. Why prophets Moses going to get the law? We get tricked by the Egyptians. Because when Prophet Moses go up, you know, I told you that old Pharaoh planning this from the beginning, that this is part of Pharaoh's plan is to get the Israelites up off the covenant at whatever cost. And then if you go to Exodus, man, I think that's Exodus 32. You know, them Egyptians left with us. Them Egyptians left with us. So, you know, you go to 32. Alright, so that'll be 32. And then when Prophet Moses take off, man, into the mountains, you know what I'm saying? Man, to get the law. And then how that the people, you know, went to the Egyptian worship. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron. That's going to be them Egyptian folks with us. And all the people break off all the golden earrings which were in their ears and brought them unto Aaron, and he received them at their hands and with the graving tool. He says how you know we couldn't have been in Americas, because we smelting metals and you know, got sophistication, you know, even to make a god, and we know it wasn't no golden calves found nowhere in the Americas that no Israelites worship. You know, and that how I explained that the Northern Kingdom, who these Israelites in the camp try to promote that false Jewish history, say that the Israelites left during the Syrian times, and then magically disappeared to the Americas, and then, you know, that's how all the natives and everybody's Israelites. You know, I explain how all that's false. But you see how ain't no golden calves in the Americas, and it never was none. And that how that we did that in the Northern Kingdom ain't never come off the Egyptian worship. And then I can show that easily. And then that's how they was destroyed first. All right. So Moses go up to get the law, and then the mixed Egyptians that's with us, you know, man, promote us to make the golden calves, and Aaron received them at their hands and fashioned it with the graven tool after he had made it a molten calf, and said, "These are thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt." See, that's that Egyptian. You know, the golden calf ain't nothing but Hathor. Hathor, the golden calf, is the Isis Horus Ptah Amun religion, all combined to what, like the cross is to Christianity. All right, so we see that the Egyptians left with us, that mixed multitude, as I showed, that mixed multitude left with us, and then how that they gonna have the people, you know, to make the golden calf and stuff, while Prophet Moses was getting the law, and then how that was part of the Egyptian plan when Pharaoh gave Joseph Asenath, see, and the mixed multitude went up with them. So the mixed multitude of Egyptians left with us, and then that would be the cause of us doing the Egyptian worship when Moses left. You see what I'm saying? So Prophet Moses would clean us up and clean us off and up under the Egyptian religion, and then before he passed away, he told us that, you know, if we fool with anything Egyptian and anything that's associated with the Egyptians, how we gonna be enslaved and so forth, and then how we didn't listen. All right, and Moses said that this is in Leviticus 18. And the Elohim said unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Elohim your Yah. After the doing of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whether I bring ye, shall ye not do. Neither shall ye walk in their ordinance. Now, you got to remember this. Neither shall ye walk in their ordinance, But we know that we walked in the Egyptian ordinance the whole time. But like I show in the video, that we only been in the promised land for 800 years total. We only got 800 years in the promised land total, from the time of Exodus to the time that the covenant was broken and we was driven out. Is 800 years. And then how that we was told not to mess with the Egyptian customs. Look, ye shall not, let me see. After their doings of the land of Egypt wherein ye dwell shall ye not do, and after the doings of the land of Canaan whether I bring ye shall ye not do, neither shall ye walk in their ordinance. Neither shall ye walk in their ordinance. But we eventually did. But you see how Almighty Yah set that out already, that we shouldn't be fooling with no Egyptian culture. And then as I explained, that how after Saul was Samuel, Saul, and then King David, and then we get off the covenant, and then we get off the covenant, and then man, the northern kingdom, we off the covenant for 300 something years until King Josiah's born, and then King Josiah would get rid of the Egyptian religion. You know, all right, here it is right here. Look. And Solomon had a whole bunch of strange wives. Solomon got the horses from the Egyptians. Then he doing all this stuff, you know what I'm saying? Kicking it with the Egyptians and so forth. Getting gold from them and kicking it with everybody that we wasn't supposed to, because they found weakness in Solomon. You know, our enemies found weakness in Solomon. And Solomon took the whole kingdom down. And we basically ain't recovered yet because of what Solomon did. And then Solomon, you know, the creator trying to get Solomon let Solomon see the example when the creator chose Jeroboam, who was from the tribe of Ephraim, to resist the Egyptian culture and in the Canaanite culture, and that how Solomon tried to kill him and chased him to his relatives. As I showed that the tribe of Ephraim mother them was an Egyptian. You know, Joseph had the daughter Asenath, the priest of On daughter. And then how that was Ephraim, Manasseh, and Ephraim mother, the tribe of Ephraim. But you see how the tribe of Ephraim would have an Egyptian connection, and then they would keep the Egyptian culture on us. Look, and Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and Ephraim of Zerudah, Solomon's servant, whose mother name was Zerah, a widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. And Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt, his relatives, unto Shawshank, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. So he would stay in Egypt, man, for about 20 some years, and then when he come out of Egypt, man, he would put the golden calves on us. Look, Jeroboam, you know, when he come out of Egypt after Solomon's death, that he would put the Egyptian religion on us. Whereupon the king took counsel. This is 1 Kings 12:28. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. So we on that Egyptian religion for a long time. And then if you go to, man, I think it's Second Chronicles, man, let me see, Second Chronicles 13:8. Let's see what that say. And we know we was on Egyptian religion, man, for 300 years. 300 years we on Egyptian religion. All right. And then this is Abijah doing his ring. You know, and yet Jeroboam the son of Nebat, the servant of Solomon the son of David, had risen up and had rebelled, and there were gathered unto him vain men, the children of Belial, have strengthened themselves against Rehoboam the son of Solomon, when Rehoboam was young and tenderhearted and could not withstand them. And now ye think to withstand the kingdom of the Elohim in the hand of the sons of David, and ye be a great multitude, and there are with you golden calves which Jeroboam made for you gods. You know what I'm saying? So it was on the northern kingdom for a long time, the Jeroboam religion. Man, let's see what Second Kings 2:16. Let's see what it say. 2 Kings 17:16. Alright. And they left off the commandment of the Elohim their Yah, and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove, and worship all the host of heaven, and served Baal. You know, that's what the northern kingdom did. And then Judah would eventually get on the same thing, because the Israelites would be driven out the northern parts into the southern parts, and then we would corrupt the Judites, the house of David, and then we will all be driven off the land. But as you read, you know, we had an Egyptian connection, and then this would sum it all up. If you go to Jeremiah, this is during the Babylonian wars, but then even before then, prophet Isaiah is going to be telling us how wicked we is in association with them Egyptians. Look, this is Isaiah 30. This would be around about 739 BC to 701 BC. I think Prophet Isaiah was around doing his message. You know, and then let's see about these kings of Israel too, how all of them was bad. All right, let's go to, let me see what I got here. All right, and got it then. Let's see what we got. Yeah, so we Israelites were always messed up with the Egyptian religion. It was the Egyptian religion that doomed us and caused our fall. And then, you know, Prophet Isaiah said that we was associated with the Egyptians. I was gonna show how all the tribes of Israel was bad during the time of Prophet Isaiah, and then how none of them no good, and then how that they was all on the Egyptian religion. Look, woe to the rebellious children, said the Elohim, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. You know, that's what we Israelites did. You know, we would, you know, as I showed in plenty of videos, how Egypt wasn't nowhere to the promised land. Man, I'm talking about a skip and a hop. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, you could be in Egypt, and then how did we always associated with the Egyptians, even after Almighty Yah told us not to, as I showed in Leviticus 18, how we was told not to walk in their ordinance or have no association with them. But then you can see that the tribe of Ephraim, kept associating with the Egyptians. You know, the tribe of Ephraim kept association with the Egyptians, as well as the northern kingdom too. So we never could do the covenant. We never could do the covenant, because we was always on Egyptian religion. And then the only time that we wasn't on Egyptian religion, man, is when, you know, King Josiah cleaned it up. You know, and he cleaned up the southern and the northern kingdom. But look, let's go to Ezekiel 23. And then this is what prophet Ezekiel said right here. The word of the Elohim came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there were 2 women, the daughters of one mother, and And they committed whoredoms in Egypt. They committed whoredoms in their youth. There were their breasts pressed, and there they bruised the tents of their virginity. In the name of them were Ahala the elder, and Abala her sister, and they were mine, and they bare sons and daughters. This were their names. Samaria is Ahala, and Jerusalem is Obama. So, the Creator tell you that from the beginning we was messed up on the Egyptian religion, and that how that we was messed up on the Egyptian religion, and then how that would doom us. That would cause our enslavement, because as you see that Almighty Yah said that we shouldn't go back to Egypt mentally or physically, and then here the Hebrews gonna run back to Egypt mentally and physically, and then that's why come our enemies keep an Egyptian system on us in the Americas, and Christianity is gonna be a break off from the religious, the Egyptian religious system. Isis Horus. It's easy to type it in and compare it. They'll tell you themselves. But you see, during Prophet Isaiah time, when Prophet Isaiah, was on, that these three kings right here, Pekah, and Hoshea, all them bad. All them bad. All the whole northern kingdom bad. All of them worship Egyptian religion since Jeroboam brung it out of Egypt. That's what doomed them. That's what doomed us. That's what doomed us. That's what doomed us, and how we never could recover after Solomon embraced the Egyptian stuff and then let that flourish, and then how Jeroboam come out with it. But all that go back to Pharaoh tricking Joseph and giving him the Egyptian woman, and then how that all that would mean our destruction later on, and then how that we couldn't, change. Now we see that the tribe of Ephraim kept in association with the Egyptians. If you go to Hosea 12, Ephraim feedeth on wind, and followeth after the east wind. He daily increaseth lies and desolation, and they do make a covenant with the Assyrians, and oil is carried into Egypt. So now the tribe of Ephraim going from Assyria all the way to Egypt. Now we steady breaking the covenant for Egyptian religion, that Almighty Yah said, hey, it's over with, and that how y'all finna be kicked out the land and driven into the curses. And then guess what we said? This what we said after the enemies show up to chase us off the land, just like Almighty Yah said, and they done burnt the whole town down. And then this would be the book of Jeremiah. This would be the book of Jeremiah. And then when you get to the parts like 44, I even show how we played with the Creator on our way into Egypt, and how we asked Prophet Jeremiah to go to the Creator after the Chaldeans done burnt the land up, Ashkenazi done burnt the land up, and then how we asked Prophet Jeremiah to go to Almighty Yah and ask him what we should do. And Almighty Yah said we should go back to the promised land and hold it down. And then how we said, no, Almighty Yah didn't say that. And how that we going into Egypt to worship their religion. Now we already know that Almighty Yah said that, once the covenant was broken, that what would happen, and that's the curses in the book of Deuteronomy and Leviticus 26. They don't never read Leviticus 26, how it say that the Israelites were paying away in their enemy's land like we've been doing. All right, if you go to Jeremiah 44, this is us going into Africa to do the Egyptian religion that caused the transatlantic slave trade, and how we never recovered after this, and how we are right now today in bondage under an Egyptian system with all kind of Egyptian stuff being pushed on us. Look, Then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken to us in the name of the Elohim, we but we will certainly do so whatever thing that goes so forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of food and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. We never come back up out of Egypt, out of Africa, after going there during the Babylonian Wars. And then how I explained it, how we would leave these parts because Nebuchadnezzar came in and took Egypt over the Chaldeans for 50 years till the Persians took it from them. And then how that the Persians allowed a little 1% to come back from the captivity, the Mesopotamian captivity that was captured during the Babylonian Wars, when we ran into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. And that how we never returned out of Africa to be reunited with them during the Persian times, after they defeated our enemies, the Babylonians, who took Egypt over. You see, and then how that we will stay in Africa around about these parts till the water start drying up, and then we start breaking up into smaller groups and roamed around, and then how the transatlantic slave trade would start, and then how that they would take us to the Americas. And here we are today trying to get some unity, because the history is here. The history is here. The Israelite Brotherhood got clear history for the Israelite community. And as I explained, as we waking up, you Israelites gonna have to point the peoples to the videos, and so they can get an understanding, and then how we can come together, because you ain't gonna hear the Israelite Brotherhood on the street giving no message and hooping and hollering as the camps do. And then how Almighty Yah said this here: Behold my servant, whom I uphold, mine elect, in whom my soul delighteth. I have put my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. He shall not cry, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the streets. And them the same streets. If you look up the Hebrew word street, it's the same. So Almighty Yah messenger ain't finna be on the corner hooping and hollering and screaming, reciting Jewish myths, trying to pass it off as Israelite history, as the camps do. All right, Hebrews, we got to come together. We got to come together. We got to come together under one history. And then it's like this, Hebrews. I want to hit up on this, that when it come time for us to leave, and then our enemies ain't trying to help, that's why they enemies, because they ain't trying to help. We Israelites not gonna sneak into the promised land, and we ain't gonna beg for citizenship. Once our history is out, it's no turning back. You know what I'm saying? We gonna have some negotiating going on. I pray to Almighty Yah. Look, once the Israelites realized that we broke covenant for Egyptian religion, and that the Israelite Brotherhood is representing the Israelite community, because I'm talking to some big folks behind closed doors, you know what I'm saying? And we talking. And then once some grounds is broken, I pray that if you want to get to the promised land, that you're going to have to be associated with the Israelite Brotherhood one day, so we can check and see what your doctrine is, because we don't need no demigod worshipers going into the mountains with us to be worshiping. We don't need them to be bringing Jesus nowhere around us when we get some freedom, because that's the religion that the slave owners gave to the slaves. That's an Egyptian religion, remodified. As I explained, the Isis Horus story, it growed into Christianity. All right, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood that, it's prophecies. I'm going to do them prophecies, about our release, and how that our enemies can't stop it because it's coming from the word of Almighty Yah, saying that how we'll be resurrected, and how that they gonna have to help. They gonna have to help, and then they know that we Israelites because the history that I'm showing. You know, they know we Israelites. They looking at these videos. They know we Israelites. The only thing that we lack is unity. We need some unity. That's the only thing we lack. And soon as the H crew for the Israelite Brotherhood go up, we're going to start getting that. That's going to be taken care of. All right, Hebrews. Shalom to the Hebrews. And I pray that all the Israelites that support the Israelite Brotherhood is doing well. And shalom to you. Message from the Israelite Brotherhood.